Miasma Dura, Filha do Milionário Destroça a Faxineira Público, a Reação de Fazer Chorar. A cidade estava chamas. Neo literalmente, of course, but the atmosphere crackled with tension. Somewhere within the sprawling, glittering estate of the VIP elite, chaos was brewing. The luxurious mansion, with its marble floors and crystal chandeliers, typically radiated opulence, but today, it was a cauldron of whispers and gasps. Every guest clutched their drink, straining to witness the spectacle unfolding before them. Amidst laughter and clinking glasses, a storm was about to break. There she was, Mia Duran, the daughter of a billionaire, with a presence that could freeze the air. Her designer dress shimmered under the chandeliers, a beacon of privilege and power. Yet, the icy fire in her eyes spoke volumes. In stark contrast, the frail housekeeper, Maria, stood before her, trembling like a leaf in a hurricane. Maria's hands were rough and worn, the kind that had scrubbed floors while Mia lived in splendor. It was a clear dichotomy, the ballad of the haves and the have-nots played acutely in this moment. "How dare you touch my things?" Mia's voice sliced through the air, sharp as broken glass. Guests flinched, eyes darting towards the unfolding drama. The silence felt heavy, suffocating, and yet electric. Maria, with her heart pounding in her chest, tried to defend herself, stammering out apologizes that barely escaped her lips. I thought I was helping, but Mia wasn't having any of it." A harsh laugh erupted from her, echoing in the spacious chamber. "Help? You think you can help? You're nothing but a stain on this estate." Her words dripped with venom, and even those watching couldn't hide their winces. Gasps erupted from the crowd, horrified expressions mingled with the look of disbelief. What would happen next was anyone's guess, but whatever it was, it felt like it would leave a mark much deeper than a simple insult could inflict. The tension in the room escalated as whispers morphed into shockwaves rippling through the audience. People leaned in, fingers tight around their glasses, anxious for the impending fallout. What was going to happen to poor Maria? Would she stand her ground or buckle under the weight of Mia's fierce gaze? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Mia's eyes flickered with rage, a storm brewing within. She stepped closer, her voice lowered to a deadly whisper. "You think I want to ruin you?" Maria's heart sank, breath hitching. The crowd was paralyzed in disbelief. Would she lash out? Would she cry? What lengths would someone go to when pushed to the brink? Suddenly, the weight of the unease grew thick, like smoke settling into their lungs, leaving only questions hanging in the air. As Mia raised her hand, poised to strike a final blow, real or metaphorical, the world fell silent. Time suspended. And then, out of nowhere, a small child from the crowd, peering around legs and drinks, let out a tremulous, "Stop." The bold proclamation cut through the tension like a hot knife through butter, stopping everyone in their tracks. What would happen next as the fate of Mia and Maria intertwined in this high-stakes drama? The air vibrated with unanswered questions, leaving a thrilling cliffhanger and a promise that something explosive was on the horizon. The child's voice echoed, a piercing command that silenced the room. Everyone turned, eyes wide, as they focused on the little girl, no more than 6 or 7, with innocent brown eyes that seemed to absorb the chaos around her. There she stood, tiny and slight, yet somehow embodying all the courage the others lacked. "Stop, please." She pleaded again, her hands clasped together in prayer as she tugged on her mother's dress nearby. The mother, caught off guard, fumbled for words, disbelief washing over her face as she refrained from pulling her daughter back into the safety of the crowd. Maria's tear-filled eyes locked onto the child as if she were a beacon amidst the storm. The collective breath the onlookers had been holding escaped in a rush, a wave of confusion and discomfort rippling through the crowd. Mia's fury was palpable, but even she was momentarily taken aback. The hand that was seconds away from striking hovered in the air, hesitation creeping into her expression. "What did you say?" she hissed, regaining her composure and casting a deadly glare toward the girl. "Don't hurt her. She didn't mean it." The little voice was so earnest, so full of compassion that a murmur of agreement burst from a few brave souls in the crowd, emboldened by the child's courage. Mia's face contorted with rage and confusion. It was a crossroad moment. She could follow the path of power and intimidation, or she could take a step back and acknowledge the humanity in front of her. But to take a step back would mean relinquishing her control, something Mia had never been trained to do. "Get lost, kid," she snapped, shooting a glance at the child's mother, who stood frozen with uncertainty. "This is grown-up stuff. You wouldn't get it." "Maybe you should listen," the child responded, her voice small but unwavering. "Sometimes, grown-ups don't know best." Gasps broke through the crowd once more. A ripple of shock, mixed with disbelief, washed over the guests. Did this little girl just challenge Mia? The atmosphere thickened, suspense crackling like sparks in the air. Maria remained silent, taken aback by the unexpected ally appearing from the most innocent of places. Just then, Mia took a threatening step forward. Her features sharpened, radiating a chilling intensity. "You dare lecture me?" The room collectively recoiled, feeling the oppressive tension build once more as Mia's boiling anger shifted focus. Before anyone could react, Maria took a shaky breath. This was her moment, a thin glimmer of courage igniting within her feeble heart. "Mia, no. It's okay. I'm sorry. I just..." Her voice trembled as she stepped between Mia and the girl, flooding the air with an unexpected rush of defiance. "I just thought it was a mistake." Though quiet, the declaration hung in the air, echoing louder than any shattering glass. The room fell silent as if it too was holding its breath, waiting for Mia's next move. "Sorry, one cut it." Mia's voice boomed, shaking walls and eardrums alike. "You'll regret this." The threat hung ominously over the crowd like a dark cloud ready to unleash its storm. Eyes darted around nervously as uncertainty settled deeply. Would Maria and the child stand their ground, or would Mia's viciousness silence them all? As the confrontation spiraled, an unexpected pair of figures entered the room, two unknown men, sharp-suited and brimming with authority. Their gazes swept the crowd, and whispers filled the air. Who were they? What role would they play in this drama? With tension spiking and secrecy lurking, the night was far from over, and more explosive revelations awaited just beyond the horizon. Mia's voice resonated through the room, her fury casting a tangible shadow. The shock waves of her threat shattered the fragile atmosphere. The two men in sharp suits paused at the entrance, eyes narrowed, as if evaluating which side of the storm they would ride. Whispers spread like wildfire, filling the air with an unexpected tension. "Who are they?" someone murmured from the back. The child, still clutching her mother's dress, turned toward Mia, defiance glowing in her eyes. "You don't have to hurt anyone," she said, her voice steady. "Words can be powerful. You just have to choose them carefully." Mia sneered, her momentarily shaken confidence surging back as she advanced, eyes narrowed like a predator staring down its prey. "What do you know about power, little girl?" "More than you think." A hush fell over the crowd, breaths held as the child continued. "When you're mean, it makes you weak. You don't need to yell to be strong." The tension shifted, a treacherous balance between fear and an uncomfortable hope. Watching this bold exchange, Maria felt her heart race. Was the little girl right? The bravado behind her tiny voice was almost enough to trigger Maria's own courage. But could she truly stand against Mia? With every step Mia took, the two suited men edged closer. One of them, tall with a sharp jawline, raised a brow, suggesting he had come to observe, not to interfere. The other, silent but alert, scanned the room for cracks in the facade of control. Mia scoffed, eyes blazing as they flickered from the girl to Maria. "You think this is a game? Let me show you what happens when you challenge me." She raised her hand again, but this time it was the man at her side who moved forward. He stepped closer, his presence commanding attention and silencing even the murmuring crowd. "Enough," he said, his voice low yet firm. "This is not the place for this. We are here for reasons far removed from your personal squabbles." Mia turned, confusion warring with anger. "Who the hell are you to tell me what to do?" "Someone who knows what power truly looks like," the man replied, his expression unreadable. "Intimidation is not strength. You're showing your weaknesses by resorting to threats. Think carefully about your next move." Chills ran down Maria's spine as she observed the unfolding dynamic. What authority did these men possess? Were they allies or foes? She barely had time to process it before Mia took a breath, pushing down whatever mistrust flickered in her eyes. "You don't scare me," she snapped resentfully, glancing back at the crowd, trying to reclaim her dominance. But the audience was different now. They were no longer silent observers, the child's voice echoed within them, igniting a spark of rebellion. A few faint whispers of support arose, emboldening others to nod tentatively. Maria's heart pounded as if it were drumming for a fight. "Please, Mia," she whispered, her voice shaking but resolute. "We don't have to do this. Let it go. For once, let us just, let it go." Just then, a commotion erupted outside the room, loud enough to pull everyone's attention momentarily away from the intense face-off. The sound of shouting grew, mixing with the pulse of the crowd. "What now?" someone gasped, anxiety filling the air as they shifted in anticipation. With Mia flaring, the tension in the room was hotter than ever. What could possibly come next? Would the precarious balance tip into chaos, or would some unexpected force shatter the moment? As eyes turned toward the door, an unsettling chill washed over the crowd. Something dramatic was about to unfold, a revelation lurking just beyond their sight. The night's tempest was only beginning. The sudden uproar outside the door sent ripples of dread through the crowd. Mia's glare shifted, momentarily losing its intensity, a flicker of uncertainty crossing her features. Was the chaos a distraction or a signal from a power she didn't control? The air hung heavy, thick with anticipation. "Stay back!" someone yelled from outside, the shrill voice cutting through the murmur of fear. The crowd instinctively surged backward, eyes darting toward the door like moths to a flame, drawn yet terrified of the unknown. Maria could hardly breathe. She felt her lungs constrict, the rushed whispers of bystanders filling her ears, their shared anxiety wrapping around her like a vice. A fleeting glance at the little girl revealed fear in her wide eyes, contrasted starkly by the bravery she had shown just moments ago. Was fear contagious? She couldn't let it take hold. The tall suited man stood beside Mia, his expression unreadable. "This isn't the time," he warned her, his voice calm yet stern, an anchor amidst the rising storm. But Mia, fueled by the crowd's divided loyalty, could hardly hear him over the clamor spilling in from the other side. Then, without warning, the door burst open. The tension exploded into chaos as a group of protesters stumbled in, chanting fervently, their voices rising until they were nearly deafening. "Justice! Justice!" They waved banners, each emblazoned with impassioned slogans. The chilling sight sent shockwaves through the room. Mia sneered, recoiling at the invasion. "Get out! You're ruining everything." But the protesters flooded forward, a tide of determination, pulling the crowd's attention from her. "Enough of the fear tactics!" one protester shouted, a voice thick with indignation. "We deserve to be seen. You can't silence us anymore." Gasps filled the air. The two suited men exchanged a glance, tension palpable between them. Did they see this as an opportunity? Suddenly, amid the clamor, a new figure entered, the protesters' leader. A woman, fierce and untamed, her hair wild as a storm cloud, stole the room's attention with every step she took. "We won't let oppression dictate our lives. No more fear. No more Mia. For a moment, the room held its breath, caught between worlds. Mia turned to the protester, eyes blazing with fury. You have no idea what you're facing. But the woman did not flinch. And you have no idea what true power looks like. She shot back, her courage stark against Mia's threats. Maria felt her heart race, a surge of adrenaline pushing her forward. The tidal wave of unity ignited some feelings buried deep inside her: anger, hope, and the fierce need to stand up. We're not afraid of you, Mia. She added, her voice slicing through the tension like a knife. That single moment felt monumental as the crowd began to chant, their voices blending into a harmonious rallying cry against the fear that loomed overhead. Would it ignite a revolution or lead to an even darker confrontation? But the tide was shifting, and Maria could feel it in her bones. The uprising was real. Would it be enough to topple the staggering force that was Mia? The protest leader's gaze met hers, a flicker of acknowledgement passing between them, a silent understanding. Suddenly, Mia lunged toward Maria, but the suited man stepped in front of her, his eyes flashing with determination. If you choose violence, there will be consequences. In that moment of strife, a piercing siren sounded from outside the building, an ominous signal that sent a jolt through the room. The tension escalated, but where would it lead? Would this bold new shift expose Mia's vulnerability, or would it provoke an explosive response? The stakes had never been higher, and the night was far from over. The siren's wail twisted through the air like a knife, echoing off the cold walls as the crowd swayed in unison, caught in a frenzied dance between fear and rebellion. The sudden sound shattered the brief moment of clarity, sending tremors of panic rippling through the room. Critical eyes shifted, scanning the doorway, hungry for answers, while the noise became a backdrop to the chaos. Mia steadied herself, her anger morphing into something heavier. Do you see this? She shouted, voice cracking like thunder. You're just giving them a reason to take us down. Her calculated facade began to crack, revealing the desperation clawing at her insides, yet, the protesters relished the confrontation. We'll take you down. Another voice barked, lifting a banner higher. The boldness surged, igniting a spirit that had long been kept in chains. We rise together. With an unexpected velocity, one of the protesters surged forward, forcing past the suited man. You think fear will stop us, Mia? Look around. The man's challenge echoed, forcing the crowd to confront their own feelings. It was a moment of realization stacked against Mia's manipulative grip. Maria's pulse quickened. The energy in the room, fraught with tension and urgency, started to shift toward her, urging her to stand firm. She couldn't back down, not now. She stepped forward, joining the movement that was starting to feel like a tidal wave. We're not going to hide anymore, Mia. Your reign ends tonight. Mia's steely gaze hardened as she regarded Maria. The fury behind her eyes mirrored the very storm brewing in the atmosphere. The suited men, once pillars of control, exchanged uneasy glances. They were on shaky ground. It was clear now that this wasn't just a protest, it was a lifeline. The air shimmered with it, thick and electric. Outside, a cacophony of sirens mingled with the roar of the crowd, amplifying the urgency. Tension threaded itself tightly through every corner of the room. Each breath felt weighted, each heartbeat a countdown. What could happen next? Suddenly, the tall man, who had been a calm presence moments earlier, took a step forward, raising his hand to quiet the room. This gathering is a call for change. But we've also come here to protect ourselves from her. He gestured towards Mia, who was still bristling angrily. And from the chaos that threatens to consume us. But Mia, quick and agile, seized the tension. You think they care for you? They are just as vile, they will crush you if you step out of line. The fear crackled like electricity in the air. Maria could feel it, the doubt creeping back, seeping into her base realities. Don't listen to her. Someone shouted, bolstered by the shared conviction that had ignited their unity. Fear is all she knows. The rallying cry surged, and the energy shifted again, a pendulum swinging toward hope and away from despair. Each voice seemed intertwined, merging and forming an anthem of resilience that defied Mia's cold rain, but just as they felt emboldened, the sirens intensified, and the unmistakable sound of heavy boots clamored outside. The crowd held its breath. What were they ready to face next? A chill swept through Maria, a feeling that the real confrontation was yet to come. Mia's laugh sliced through the air, a bitter note of defiance. You may have your voices, but remember they'll come for you. Her eyes darted to the door, and for the first time, uncertainty touched her bravado, but the momentum had shifted, the tidal wave surged forward. Just then, the door swung open once more, revealing figures clad in uniforms. The room exploded into a chaotic mix of shouts and gasps. Who were they really here to protect? As Maria's heart raced in her chest, she realized that choosing a side meant risking everything. The stakes had never been higher, and the true battle was just beginning. Would they stand strong and unite against the oncoming storm, or would the very foundation of their rebellion come crashing down? The blast from the door sent a shockwave through the crowd, each face reflecting a mix of terror and defiance. Uniformed officers flooded the room, their faces stoic, yet the tension pulsed thick like a live wire. Maria's heart thudded heavily against her ribs, the air suddenly too close, too charged. Get back! An officer barked, voice cutting through the chaos. The crowd hesitated, a confused mass of bodies shifting uneasily. Mia seemed to fold into herself, fading from the fire of conflict to a shadow lurking beneath, a facade of control slipping away. This is our moment, don't let them intimidate us. She cried, grasping for power in desperation as she stumbled back, her bravado dimming under the sergeant's glare. One officer pushed through the throng, his eyes scanning the sea of faces as if searching for a flicker of insurrection. We're here to restore order, he declared, but the authority in his voice was met with shouts of anger and defiance. Order? You mean more oppression? A voice resonated from the back, igniting a fresh wave of protest. It was like stirring a beehive, the crowd surged at the implied threat, emboldened by adrenaline. Each pulse of anger echoed a growing unrest that painted the room with shades of rebellion. Maria felt it, the momentum shifting again, strengthening. But her gut twisted with a fear she couldn't shake. What if the officers were not there to help? What if they had come to crush this flickering flame of hope? She glanced at the suited men, their expressions tight with uncertainty, and knew the truth: they were just as unsteady as everyone else. Mia, sensing defeat, darted her eyes around for something, anything to anchor her power. We can negotiate, she said, voice shaking slightly as she raised her palms, an insincere plea for peace. You don't need to make this worse. But the crowd was restless. You never cared about us. A woman yelled, tears streaming down her face. You used us, you think we'd bend to your will again? The raw, aching truth sent shivers through Maria's spine, a powerful reminder of years spent under Mia's thumb. An officer stepped closer, cutting through the roiling emotions. We will not tolerate violence or disorder. Leave now or face the consequences. His eyes narrowed, and Maria saw the flicker of fear behind them. They weren't as invincible as they pretended. Suddenly, without warning, a protester surged forward, confronting the officer directly. What do you think you'll do? Shoot us all? The chant picked up momentum, growing louder, fiercer, an anthem of both love and rebellion that filled the air like smoke. In that moment, Maria felt a spark ignite within her, a sense of courage growing bold and wild. We're not afraid. She cried, her voice joining the chorus. We are here. We won't be silenced any longer. Mia flinched, irritation warping her features, but before she could retort, the ground seemed to shake beneath them. The officers braced themselves, confusion crossing their faces. Outside, the sirens blared even louder, drowning out the chants, claiming attention like a predator in the night. Then, as if summoned by the rising wave, the lights flickered once and went dark, plunging the room into shadows. Gasps erupted as chaos ensued. The only sounds now were heavy breaths and murmured panic, uncertainty holding them in a vice grip. Maria's heart raced, uncertainty flooding over her like cold water. What now? She thought. In the constricting darkness, shadows danced violently, voices a blur of confusion and anger. Would they find strength in the dark, or would fear reclaim its dominion? And then, everything changed as a single spotlight cut through the blackness, illuminating Mia, who stood rigid, devoid of her confidence, the wicked glint returning to her eyes. "Let the games begin," she intoned, a sinister smile creeping across her lips. Maria felt a chill crawl up her spine. What did she mean? Would this night end in triumph or disaster? The room held its breath, waiting for the inevitable clash. Mia's smirk sliced through the darkness like a jagged knife. She stepped forward, the light casting long shadows of uncertainty behind her. The crowd shifted, a mixture of fear and confusion rippling through the throng, each person caught between standing their ground and fleeing into the obscurity that threatened to swallow them whole. "What kind of games, Mia?" Maria called, her voice threading through the murmur. She could feel the eyes of the crowd turning to her, searching for a leader in this tangled mess. It terrified her, but she held her ground, unwilling to buckle under the weight of expectation. Mia tilted her head, the light glinting off her long hair, making the entire scene almost grotesque. "Oh, Maria, you really have no idea what's at stake here," she cooed, mocking as her confidence returned like a fierce tide. "Tonight, everything changes. You'll see." A sudden crash echoed from the entrance, causing the crowd to erupt in gasps, but the officers kept pushing forward, maintaining their lines with determination. Officers pulled out flashlights, beams cutting through the thickening dark, creating strange, dancing shadows that seemed to leap and sway. The air was charged, like the moment before a storm. "Look!" an onlooker shouted. "They're coming." More protesters surged forth to block the advancing officers. The tension was palpable, a collective heartbeat pounding against the walls of the room. Maria's chest tightened with each thud, a manifestation of the fear boiling beneath her skin. Every breath felt like pulling against the weight of the world. "Stay together!" shouted a voice from the front, bravely rallying the crowd. Maria couldn't tell who it was, but their words sparked something in her, a flicker of hope buried under layers of despair. With renewed energy, she shouted back, "We stand as one. We will not be silenced." Mia's smile faded as she took a step back, confusion clouding her features for the first time. The atmosphere shifted, the energy oscillating between dread and rebellion. It was in that electric moment that she lashed out, arms slicing through the air dramatically. "You think you control this?" she yelled, her voice rising above the chaos. "Control is an illusion, and so is hope." Maria felt the weight of the words slam into her like a physical blow. Doubt crept in, but she pushed it away, channeling the resolve of every person around her. She could see the fire in their eyes, the desperation mixing with determination. They wanted change, needed it. They didn't just want to be heard, they craved freedom. With one final breath, she stepped toward Mia. "You don't get to decide our fate, Mia. We're more powerful than you know." Nothing happened for an agonizing heartbeat. Then, from behind, a loud crash shattered the tension. The glass door came crashing down, seemingly unhinged from its hinges, and a stampede of new faces flooded in, each one marred by anger and intensity. They carried banners, raised fists, a chorus of voices lit by the fire of rebellion. The officers hesitated, their grip faltering as they drew back. Fear danced behind their eyes now, uncertainty shadowing their rigid postures. The crowd roared again, fueled by the reinforcements, each voice revealing the depth of their anguish, their desperation for change. Then it hit her. Mia's smile twisted into something reminiscent of dread. It was here, this is what she had woven together in those conspiratorial conversations outside the public eye. It had unleashed not just the uprising but something far darker. Maybe power was never meant for those driven by fear. "Now, let's see how strong your will is when faced with the truth." Mia sneered, her words cutting into the air, and suddenly, without warning, thick smoke began to fill the room, spreading out of nowhere, choking away clarity, suffocating voices of defiance. Panic erupted. People coughed, stumbling backward, searching for exits they could barely see. "What is happening?" Maria cried, flailing her arms through the chaos, but the fog enveloped her mind, each heartbeat a question lost amidst the confusion. As the reality began to twist, and the crowd dispersed into chaos, Maria could feel the ground beneath her feet shifting. What was Mia planning? In this fog of uncertainty, the real nightmare was just beginning. Could she find a way to rally them in time? Would they survive this darkness? The answers hung in the smoke as the weight of their struggle loomed larger than life. Maria could barely see 2 feet in front of her. The smoke pressed in on her chest, every breath stinging her lungs. Panic spread like wildfire, a pulsating energy that tugged at her, urging her to flee, yet she remained frozen, anchored by the chaos swirling around her. "Stay together," she gasped, her voice lost in the chaos. All around her, shadows morphed into frantic silhouettes, each person battling their own surge of terror. A woman nearby stumbled, her face twisted in fear. Maria reached out, but the smoke twisted their surroundings into a nightmare, turning familiar faces into ghostly apparitions. "Keep moving," someone shouted, a voice breaking through the haze. The crowd surged toward the exit, a herd of lost souls desperate for light. Maria fought against the tide, battling it with every ounce of determination she could muster. She had to find a way to transcend this chaos, to show them that their strength lay in unity. Mia's laughter echoed in the distance, chilling Maria to her core. It seemed to mock her, dancing around the edges of her mind. "This is just the beginning, Maria. You'll see." The words cut deep, revealing the sinister edge of Mia's scheme, a trap laid bare, designed to suffocate any flicker of hope. Drawing a deep, shuddering breath, Maria shouted again, "Hold on. We're stronger than this." But her voice barely reached the fragments of the crowd clinging to life. Determination surged through her veins, a fiery reminder of why they had gathered in the first place. She could not let it end here. Suddenly, a figure burst through the smoke, a flashlight beam cutting through the thick fog. The silhouette of an officer emerged, moving with caution yet resolutely. "Everyone, this way," he urged, waving them toward an open exit. The crowd hesitated, torn between following this beacon of authority and the chaos behind them. Then, with a swift motion, Mia appeared beside the officer, her face alight with dangerous glee. "Oh, you really think they'll lead you to safety?" she taunted. "There's no escape, not from what's coming." With her words, the smoke thickened, coiling like a living creature, climbing high with a mind of its own. A shudder ran through the crowd, doubt creeping back in, but Maria couldn't let them falter. She pushed forward, trying to grab the officer's attention. "We can't trust her. We have to move now." But the officer's face was set in grim contemplation, his flashlight flickering nervously in the shadows. Just when hope seemed lost, a young man from the crowd took a step forward, boldly declaring, "We won't let fear dictate our fate. We can break through this." His voice rang out, glimmering with an authenticity that ignited something within them all. Slowly, heads turned, eyes filled with renewed purpose. "Together," Maria called out, grabbing onto that momentum. "We break through together." She felt a spark ignite in the air. The crowd, emboldened, began to gather at her side, ready to face whatever lay ahead, but just as they moved as one, a shrill scream cut through the storm. "No! Don't go that way!" It was the young woman who had stumbled earlier, panic etching every line of her face. There's something lurking, a shadow." A collective pause hung in the air, the weight of the moment pressing down harder than the smoke itself. "What do you mean?" Maria called urgently, pushing through the veil of despair. The answer to that question slipped just beyond her reach, swallowed by the surrounding chaos. The shadows continued to swirl, growing darker and deeper, leaving the crowd gasping for both clarity and control. What awaited them in the suffocating gloom? And could they rise from this quagmire of fear, or would they be consumed by Mia's wicked design? The air was thick, a palpable dread weighing on their chests as Maria's heart thudded loudly in her ears. The tension around them twisted in a suffocating embrace, and every instinct screamed to flee. Yet here they stood united by desperation, but divided by fear. The woman who had warned them, her voice still trembling, clutched a man's arm, her eyes wide with horror. "Please, you don't understand. It moves in the shadows," she stammered, glancing nervously at the swirling blackness that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. "We can't go that way." Mia's laughter rang out again, a cruel melody that seemed to echo off the burning walls. "Oh, sweetheart, it's too late," she called, her voice honeyed yet dripping with malice. "You can't just move on, you have to know what you're facing." With that, shadows detached themselves from the murky depths, shifting and stretching into grotesque shapes that clawed at the edges of the dim light. Murmurs of dread rippled through the crowd. Maria felt the impulse to turn back, to retreat into the thicker smoke, but the eyes around her were set. They were searching for direction, reassurance, anything to ease the clenching panic in their throats. "Stick together," she shouted fiercely, channeling courage into every syllable. "We can't let her win. Remember why we came." She needed them to recall the unity that had once sparkled in their hearts, this sense of defiance. The officer, uncertain yet anchored by the weight of their moment, stepped forward. "If there is something in the shadows, we need to face it head-on." "Let me lead." "No," Maria interrupted, her voice ascending like a siren in the storm. "We can't leave our sides. She wants us to fear, that's how she'll control us." The officer paused, visibly shaken, as glances darted amongst the swarm, equal parts fear and determination. It was in this charged moment that the young man, who had emboldened them before, took a step towards the darkness. The crowd gasped collectively, a soft intake of breath trailed by silence, pregnant with anticipation. "I want to back down," he declared, his voice steady. "If we allow the fear to take us, then we are already lost. Together." This rallying cry started a ripple effect, gathering strength. Others exchanged glances, the fire igniting anew. Maria took a breath, heart racing as she watched the swirling shadows. "If we go through, we fight together. We can break this." She stepped towards the dark mass, energy surging within her. It was now or never, but as they began to move, another scream tore through the air. A man fell to the ground, tripping over a gnarled root that had suddenly thrust itself out of the darkness. "Help!" he cried, scrambling to crawl back, his eyes wild. In seconds, the shadows seemed to tighten, gathering around him like a predator closing in on its prey. "No!" The crowd surged forward, instinctively wanting to pull him free, but Maria sensed danger lurking. "Stay back. It's a trap." The surge halted, confusion battling with instinct. The shadows danced mockingly, and Maria felt the air grow colder, a chill that seemed to twist her thoughts. What did the darkness want? A harrowing silence blanketed the crowd, and as the young man prepared to leap into the fray, Maria's thoughts whirled. What if they could confront the shadows? What lay beyond the veil of smoke and despair? Suddenly, a flicker of light appeared at the very edge of the crowd, an ember in the suffocating dark. "Follow the light!" Someone shouted, and for a brief moment, hope ignited again, but with that light came another horrifying revelation. Lurking behind the flicker were eyes, dozens of them, glowing and calculating. As the tension peaked, Maria understood one thing with piercing clarity: the true danger lay not just in the gathering shadows, but in what they would do if the light vanished completely. Could they really face the darkness that waited just beyond their reach, or would they become part of Mia's malevolent game? The room throbbed with fear. The shadows twisted, stretching, curling into grotesque forms that loomed like the very embodiment of people's doubts. Maria felt the thrumming energy shift in the air, helplessness battling against the rising tide of courage. She could hardly breathe as Mia's laughter echoed, taunting, cruel, an unyielding reminder of the power still held over them. "Listen!" Maria shouted, her voice slicing through the haze. "We are stronger than this. Strength lies in unity." At the appearance of those glowing eyes, a shiver of terror crept through the crowd. Gasps echoed as the crowd stilled, each person grappling with the encroaching darkness. Somehow, they had gone from accepting oppression to facing an unknown horror that threatened to consume them whole. The flickering light was a small beacon, but it radiated hope. "We must move together. This is our only way out," a man shouted, breaking the oppressive silence that hung like a thick cloud. Maria turned to face the group, feeling their uncertainty, their fear clawing at every soul around her. "We've come this far. We faced Mia and her intimidation, we won't let that energy drain out of us now." The words rang like a bell, clanging with urgency, and responses started to ripple through the crowd. Suddenly, hands found each other, gripping tight, a web of support weaving through the chaos. A wave of fresh energy pulsed around her. Maria pushed forward, heart racing in line with the rising resolve. "We will not submit. Mia thrives on our fear, and we can overcome it. Together." The crowd began to chant, an empowering thrum of voices calling out against the spiraling shadows. "Together. Together." It surged forward, a collective defiance echoing within the depths of uncertainty. One voice possessed the magic to ignite another, but the shadows shifted violently, trying to penetrate their newly forged unity. "If you fight me, you'll fail," Mia screeched, her confidence cracking as she lurked behind the encroaching darkness. The cold authority in her tone no longer felt as intimidating. Maria faced her, narrowing her gaze through the swirling smoke. "We see you, Mia. Your power crumbles because it hinges on fear." Beneath the shimmering shadow caught in the light, the flicker expanded. Daring, brave individuals pushed past their instinct to retreat, stepping bravely into the realm of uncertainty. Their movement radiated a sense of strength. And as they marched toward the darkness, it began to recede, writhing against the power that surged from within. "Get back!" Mia's voice blasted, yet her presence faltered. The crowd pressed on, the connection tethering them together growing stronger. Maria caught a glimpse of the little girl, standing defiantly in the corner, her eyes bright with determination. "We won't give up." She cheered, a reminder that innocence is the soul's greatest courage. With each chant, the confidence within the crowd gained strength, the shadows shrank back further into the corners of the room. The young day was rising, a dawn forged in shared values of resilience, bravery, and mutual support. The power shifted visibly. As Maria stood defiantly before the retreating darkness, she turned to the crowd. "If they wish to engulf us in shadows, we won't capitulate. We must stand, for every individual matters. Each voice counts. Together. Together. Together." The crowd erupted. The cries echoed stronger and more unified than ever before, sending waves of reverberation through the room. Then suddenly, something cracked. Light poured in from above, illuminating the space in a burst of brilliance. The shadows screamed but began to dissolve, evaporating under the light like mist in the morning sun. Mia stumbled back as clarity dressed the room for the first time. The two suited men stepped forward, a newfound sense of authority wrapping around them like armor. "Enough of this madness," one declared, his voice unfaltering and strong. "This is where your illusion ends." Mia's face twisted in rage, a myriad of emotions battling beneath the surface. "You think you've won?" she spat. The remnants of her power fading along with the darkness, her truth unraveling before them, the energy around Maria thrummed, each person standing unified, bright-eyed and determined before the defeated visage of what had long kept them bound: fear. And in that final moment, as Mia's power waned like a candle left in the wind, Maria felt something shift within her too. A sense of freedom unfurled, its grip loosening around her heart. She stepped towards Mia one last time, the fight now fully fledged. Control comes from compassion, not fear. We won't be crushed by shadows any longer. Mia's laughter faded into hollow echoes, retreating into the shadows she could no longer command. The room, now basked in warmth, felt like resurrection. The crowd erupted in jubilant cheers. They were no longer just survivors, they were contenders. As the celebration began, Maria felt tears sting her eyes, not from fear, but from overwhelming relief. She had faced the storm, emerged intact. Individually, they had all fought that dreaded night, and night transformed into a victory. Let us build a new tomorrow. Maria shouted as they began to disperse, laughter and determined chatter filling the air. With one final shudder, she looked back at the remnants of what once loomed over them, a bitter relic of fear. Then came the call, the vibrant energy of change. Make your voice heard. You need to subscribe now, so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button, now it's time to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. Be the beacon of hope in someone else's darkness. Together is how we build change.